architectural river cruise in Chicago. So we have the ferry right here. It was raining for a while, but we were praying for it not to rain, so it's not raining anymore. So yeah, we're very excited, and the river looks really cool. It's double deck, so that's gonna be pretty cool. We're gonna sit on the top, and it'll be a really cool day cruise. We haven't done this in a few years.
The water seems very nice.
So it's gonna be about a 1 hour trip, and it's just gonna be a cruise around the entire downtown of Chicago. So we'll just be like touring Chicago, except on a boat.
She says folding chairs now instead of bench.
Bencha. பெஞ்சில் வருமா?
That's what I want. So it rained, and they're being so courteous, and they're actually wiping the seats down. So that's a really great thing. I was really scared that I would have to wet my pants, but that won't happen.
Don't slip and fall. It's the only way I've ever fallen. I've never fallen on a deck is when it's wet. So be careful on the decks. If it does begin to rain, we have more seating downstairs. So feel free to move downstairs. Stairway in the back of the boat. And be careful going down the stairs. But hopefully we'll have a dry couple hours here.
Hello. Hi there. Welcome aboard. Hello. Hello. Hey, my name is William. I'm going to be your docent, your tour guide over these next moments here on the Chicago River. While we're getting underway, Captain John, he needs to let me have you know a couple things about safety. You are aboard Evening Star. Evening Star is a U.S. Coast Guard certified passenger vessel. This means we have all the necessary life-saving equipment on board in the event of an unlikely emergency. Primarily that means life jackets. They're in the wooden top deck boxes that run along the perimeter of the boat. We've only needed them in case of emergency, and so far 0 for 0. So it's just good to know where they are. We got a little bit of rain, so like Captain John said, please do be careful when you're walking around the boat using handrails on the stairs. There are stairs at the back of the boat. They lead down to the lower level. Some additional seating down there. The restrooms are on the starboard or right-hand side of the vessel as you're facing forward. And you will also find Jake, the ship's bartender. It's after 9 a.m. in the city of Chicago, so the bar is open. He has hot and cold drinks, alcoholic and non, so feel free to visit him at any time throughout. Again, just be careful when moving about the boat. You know, even on a dry day, you're on a moving boat, it's just always good to remember that your body moves differently when you do so. Also, just while we're underway, a couple things to keep in mind. No kneeling or standing on any of the benches. Please use this wooden handrail as a perimeter of the vessel. Keep everything inside. It's just much easier to bring everybody back safely that way. You'll also see the Michigan Avenue Bridge here in front of us. We have some low-lying bridges, especially some of the two-level ones. Please resist the strange human urge to touch a sharp and rusty bridge. It has worked out 0 times for those who've attempted it. So again, it's easier to bring everybody out safely if you keep everything inside the boat at all times. Also, just we're living would challenge you, we'd say take out your magnifying glass, try to find a mistake. He was also a professor here in the city. One of his students disagreed with him, I think. One of his students designed these corncob towers next door. Marina City by Bertrand Goldberg. Definitely going the opposite way in terms of no right angles in his designs. He didn't like that. He's kind of known for saying that he liked being out in nature. He never saw right angles naturally in the natural world, so why would I want my architecture to be all right angles? Eventually coming up with this kind of curved concrete aesthetic he's known for. Also a bit of a city within a city. A bit of a rarity, a place where you could park your boat back in the 60s underneath your car, under your condo, bowling alley, movie theater, fitness center, shops, restaurants, offices, grocery store, ice skating rink, everything inside. Now it's pretty common to have all that amenity richness. Really quickly though, I want to bounce across the river to 55 West Wacker. A sharp left as we come underneath, kind of sounds like it looks. Brutalism. Comes from the French béton brut, which means raw concrete. And that was the idea, linking masses of it. If you owned a bank or an insurance company, maybe a law firm back then, a sign of strength and security. But for maintenance purposes and costs, and for the fact that most people think it's ugly, you just don't see a lot of it anymore. But in the architectural world, there's still quite a bit of love as we get less and less of it. To the right, coming up, beautifully maintained, 1914, this red bricked clock tower building. This is the Reed Murdoch Center. It's from 1914. School, largely, in its design, which Frank Lloyd Wright made famous, of course, with his homes. I like to point out its asymmetry, though. It's pretty simple. There are 6 basic windows on the right, only 5 on the left. Symmetry is a principal element of design. One of the most famous symmetric faces in the world, one William Bradley Pitt. Symmetry is known for being attractive, so it was built with 6 and 6 until they widened this bridge in 1928. They needed more as a base, a shaft, and a capital. City soundscape. Let's go right, the massive merchandise mart here. It's from 1930. Art Deco is the style. Limestone siding, vertical lines, dark setbacks. We'll see a lot of this. The heads facing away from us is what I get asked about. Those are the merchant princes. The mart was built for Marshall Field as a department store warehouse. He's up there, those heads. Montgomery Ward, Wanamaker, Sears. Department confluence of the river. This is the first thing I want to say. We're going to talk about this brand new building because it was practically in the ground the last time I saw it. But first, if you're looking at a blue glass building, it didn't exist 5 years ago when I started on the river. That building, this new construction, that building, that building, that building, the Riverwalk, none of it was here 5 years ago. So a big changing point at what used to be our city center back when we were just a small little town. But this is obviously where most people's attention is going today, and it's going to be the new tallest building at Wolf Point. 60 stories tall, a new office building, Salesforce, expanding their workforce here in the Midwest. But most people's eyes are naturally drawn to these two. Brand new sculpture from last year by Santiago Calatrava in front of River Point, which is really one of my favorites. You got these inverted parabolas. Some people call it the Hot Pocket building, but I don't care. I still like it. I think it looks nice. Understandably, though, most people's eyes are drawn to this guy here to our right. 150 North Riverside Plaza. This is also from 2017. It only utilizes 20% of its lot area. So my favorite part, look up. Into our reflection. That's us right there. That is easily my favorite part of this design. Yeah, sure, give yourself a wave. That's good, I like that. We'll talk a little bit more about some of its engineering and why it stays up so well on our way back up. But next we're going to go to the left. Finished up in the last moments of 2020, we have a brand new blue glass office building here to our left. This is for Bank of America, 110 North Wacker. The same architect behind the building we just talked about, to the river, right? A lot of times we're drawn to the crowns of buildings. As of late, a lot of these new office buildings invite your eye to the river or street level. Here you got these kind of inverted trusses, more or less. I think they kind of look like pitchforks or tridents. I think this is another great one where everybody sees things a little bit differently. They're also both from 1929, so they've known each other for a while. To the right, you have this beautiful riverside plaza, and to the left, not exactly. But they're built in the same year, so one of them had to be strange. The strange one was actually the Riverside Plaza, especially today, and especially if it's your first time in life. Starting off in the 1960s, you have black box modernism, kind of in its heyday. In the 60s, some people refer to it as the Mad Men era of architecture nowadays. It's a good kind of jumping off point if you're familiar. Following Mies van der Rohe's less is more, form follows function approach. But it is worth noting now in the 70s, you get a white box, which is different. Which I think a box that Mies van der Rohe's influence reaching the international stage. Then we go in the 80s, curving green glass, a bit of contextualism, except rather than tipping its cap to the height of another building, the curve and color here acknowledge the river with its upcoming curve and color. Where international style can be built anywhere, contextualism encourages that individuality. Then we'll go left to a building I didn't talk about, and then about 6 years ago, five, or actually right when I started here, they had this mural done. I imagine the owner sat down with the artist at some point saying, listen, William isn't talking about us on this new tour, we gotta shake things up, obviously. We need something that's gonna put us back on the map. Which is a way of saying this is a giant You Are Here map painted on the building. The red rectangle is this building, the rest of it is the street under the top of Gotham City Bank was filmed here. Back when this building was vacant. For 20 years. This actually was our old post office in the 20s. We expanded it in the 30s. We moved out in 1996, and this redevelopment built 2 brand new rental buildings. They're, I think, just about to break ground on a third one, which will be taller than these 2. This Riverwalk was finished up last year, and it really is another example of how the city and the river's relationship has changed recently. The idea of building a Riverwalk, a private entity investing money to get you closer to what was traditionally our sewer, it's still a new idea, right? This is the first kind of its kind here on the South Branch, and I think they've done a really lovely job with it. As they continue, I think they got 3 more buildings planned here over the next place is the Reed, Echelon, kind of sound like fragrances. Then let's go to this guy. Anybody recognizing curved concrete, kind of a Jetsons residence? How all these new luxury rentals in most major cities, they're are referred to as amenity-rich living. Right? They give you a rooftop garden, pool, fitness center, chef's kitchens, movie rooms, coffee shops, restaurants. That's a big selling point, more than the unit homes today. And Bertrand Goldberg kind of had his finger on the pulse about that. In fact, a lot of recent city planning, I guess, research train station. This is another one of those ones where every time I come back, every season I'm off, I'm like, is this going to be here? It really has kind of had an interesting history here. It was built back in the 30s. Hasn't been used in about 10, 15 years. They phased it out even before they vacated it. But really, 2 things. I think it's a cool kind of marker of an industrial past, right? Where we have river walks here in the South Branch. It's good to remember that this is 20 years. The Atlantic Midwest is calling this parcel of land 78. There are currently 77 neighborhoods in the city. And as you looking north from our South Branch, I think this was one of my favorites just because it is, I think, a uniquely Chicago photo for a number of reasons that we'll get into. Some of the other photo ops are a little bit maybe more picturesque, but I think this one's pretty in a really lovely way. So feel free to grab a photo, just make sure you know the person behind you can do the same thing, be a good neighbor and all that. And we're going to dive into these tall buildings in front of us for important and maybe obvious reasons. For the reasons we've talked about, we're in an important part of the city. Our industrial past and a lot. I see a lot of you taking photos, so feel free to grab a photo to our left. Nobody ever does. That's okay. In the distance, you'll find a communications tower. You'll see a red-topped communications tower. We can actually pinpoint with a pretty good degree of certainty, considering the times. That is where the Great Chicago Fire of 1871 began, at the O'Leary Farm. It's my job. People shouting cow at me. It's fine. You got it. The story goes like this. Let's get all on the same page. Sunday, October 8th of 1871. Mrs. Catherine O'Leary. She leaves a kerosene lantern in her barn over on DeKoven Street, and that is when her cow, Daisy, then kicks that kerosene lantern into the hay, starting it, the barn, and eventually the city ablaze. It's important to me that you know, if you didn't know this story, it is a very famous story. I don't say this to leave you out. I mean, it is a famous story, one of the most famous in the world. It wasn't the cow because the guy who wrote it said, hey, I made that up. It's still largely a mystery. We don't know. We don't know how the fire started. And more safe city, often city planning, kind of beauty and safety go hand in hand. Things that we enjoy today just simply wouldn't be possible without the fire providing a clean slate. Think about that we enjoyed today because of that plan, the river walk, our park system, diagonal streets. To isolate, tuck away garbage before pickup. You would be hopscotching garbage bags on the sidewalks of Chicago without the fire. All of it. Hello. Let's go to the far right. We're going to go to these two in front of us. 1930, a statue on top of the Chicago Board of Trade. A very tall Art Deco building for its time. Ceres is the Roman goddess of the harvest, as the Board of Trade was an agricultural commodities exchange, but it's been Wayne Enterprises and the Batman Begins, a whole bunch of stuff, I think, really draws filmmakers in. That statue, kind of mystery there. Which brings us to these two tall buildings. I call them the king and queen chess pieces of our skyline. First up is 311 South Wacker from 1990, pretty in pink. It kind of has a multitude in it. But honestly probably pays second fiddle to what is the tallest in the city. 1,451 feet tall, 110 stories, 100 elevators, over 16,000 windows. The Sears Tower. Maybe the tallest, but we're going to call it the Sears Tower. 1974, built for Sears Roebuck as its international headquarters. The tallest building in the world for 24 years, and still the tallest in Chicago. I've seen parts of design along the river. The glass of Gateway Center 4. Most people don't know, if you look closer, each pane of glass is gently pinched in each corner. It's convex, curved bubble glass. Gets its nickname from bubble wrap. Where you really see it, though, I think, is when you look into the reflection and follow it for a moment. The curve, the color, the reflection all bring you back to the river, its neighbor. Looks a little bit less like you're looking into the reflection of the building, and a little more like water, hiding in plain sight. Back to the left, through the bridge, if you really prefer, to the Sears, and it's 110 stories. Off the 103rd floor, you'll see some glass. Oh, they're punched in today. They're renovating the observatory at the Sky Deck. Don't worry, there is one that is open in Chicago that I'll show you a little bit later on if that's your deal, if you dig that. But let's just push back to when I can actually show you. Every part of the base of the building extends all the way to the top. One of the hardest parts about talking about the Sears and its importance and its brilliance is that it's simple. It's called a bundled tube system, which is a way of tapering a design. I know, this all sounds enthralling. Think about it this way, though. If you hold a long piece of straw out in the wind, it's going to get blown over. If you bundle a bunch of straw together, the tallest one's in the middle, it's less likely to get blown over. That is the idea that made the Sears Tower the tallest building in the world. And it's not complicated. It's not. That's what's frustrating about it. It's a simple way that changed the skyscraper game. We also call it the Sears. It's called the Willis Tower today. Legally, naming rights have actually become a very common thing, stadiums especially, in the last 5 years. It's somebody paid to have the building named. The Willis Insurance, they're in the building. I've had some of their employees by its office towers. Serrated corners. There's a name for this and everything, like a serrated knife. More practically though, there was one thing everybody wanted, especially if you worked in the financial industry in the 80s. The way you had made it is if you had a hit with its paws coming out. In the early 20s, King Tutankhamun's tomb was unearthed in Egypt, made worldwide news, impacted Art Deco in a really profound way, kind of an Egyptian revivalism. Very common. I want to put the theater masks on the theater building. Leave us alone. Anytime we're going to go to that earlier iteration from the same architects, sketch partners, here at 110 North Wacker, because there's something we can't see inside the top of the building playing an important role. 160,000 gallons worth of water tanks were installed here. It's what's called a tune/damper. When they were running wind tests on a model, they found the top of the building would begin to sway and vibrate on a windy day, giving a tummy ache to the office workers. Motion sickness. So, on a windy day, the tanks in the building will fill partially, not fully, with water. So that if the building is pushed in one direction by Chicago's notable winds, the tanks will go with the building. They're fixed to the building. The water in the tanks is not, instead sloshing and encouraging the building to its upright position, reducing vibration. So far, the largest of its kind in the world. In front of us, the Lake Street Bridge stands out. It's one of my favorite bridges from 1916. We should probably talk about all these bridges we keep passing underneath. We're known for them. They're all different in their design, so you can find your favorite over 80 years of architectural history. More of this type of movable bridge than any other city on the planet. Bascule bridges, but a shorthand Chicago bridge will do. Since the train there took a little bit of our time, we'll talk more about these bridges near the lake. In the meantime, a different view of that massive merchandise mart in front of us, and it's 4.2 million square feet. This building had its own zip code for a while. Takes up 2 city blocks, 25 stories. It is massive. It's really well maintained over the years. It's an office building. Really one of the first buildings to honor the river in its design. Contextualism tying in, matching Wacker Drive and the river's curve. Beautiful reflections, but famous where Ferris Bueller's dad worked in the film Ferris Bueller's Day Off years ago. Behind these panes of glass along the Riverwalk, and they turned the side of the merchandise mart into the world's largest projections-based art installation. It's called Art on the Mart. Wednesdays through Sunday, I believe. The website's pretty simple, artonthemart.com. They'll have the show times for the evening, usually around dusk. Definitely worth checking out, but it's one of a number of things to do along the Riverwalk. The Riverwalk really is kind of our most recent city planning tenant that has kind of gotten worldwide attention. It extends from Lake Street all the way down to the lakefront, about a mile. Something for everybody in between, these and all sorts of stuff. But sometimes Mace Vandero, you know, less is more. Don't overcomplicate it. To the right, really exemplary is how this shows city planning at work in individual building design. Basically city ordinance. Back in 1923, there was a simple city ordinance that said if you want to build taller than 264 feet, you have to, as you build up, so as to better allow sunlight down to other buildings and city streets. Back in the 20s, electricity, also building design. The 1990s, Ricardo Bofill, the architect. Triangular top harkens to the Parthenon in Athens, Greece. So what's the contradiction here? I don't think this building should be beautiful, and it is. That's why it's one of my favorites. If I wrote this down for you on paper, I could say it's the Parthenon in Athens, Greece, but, you know, also a 50-story blue glass office building, too. Just doesn't sound like peanut butter and chocolate to me, personally, those two things. And I think Leo Burnett's building, and its columnar Chicago School Tiger, the Pillsbury Doughboy, the Jolly Green Giant, the Maytag Repairman, the Marlboro Man, most recently, I think maybe more relevant for today, that Mayhem guy from Allstate, also from Leo Burnett. Big name. Forward and to the right, golden leaf on top of the carbide and carbon building. often catches the eye. Often called the champagne bottle building, which I think is a pretty good image. All that green granite tapering off to the golden top. It's worth noting, that's not foil. It is 24 karat gold leaf. It is only as thick as a coat of paint, but you know, still. Then come back, if you would, the ornamented domes and set-back tower of the Jewelers Building following 1926. Beautifully restored over the last couple of years, the ornamentation. Had a car elevator when it opened. It's a regular elevator today. And rumored that Al Capone liked a speakeasy in the top dome, which is it's not true. But it's a good rumor, so feel free to spread it. Mather Tower, also significant because as the Sears Tower remains today, Mather Tower once held the coveted title as the tallest building in the city of Chicago. For a week. A little reference point, right, for how quickly those crowns can and do indeed change. Next to this glass addition to the London Guarantee and Accident Building by Alfred Al-Shula, rooftop bar LH opened with the new hotel about 4 years ago. I haven't been personally, but I heard good things. I guess you pay for the view and the photo and the cocktail price, but that's kind of a given. To the left, coming into view near our Michigan Avenue dock, construction still continuing but finishing up on this ornamented crown, this Gothic revivalism of Tribune Tower, built for the newspaper in 1925, a 1922 worldwide contest with 250 entries. This prompts simply who can design the most beautiful office building in the world. Colonel McCormick, paper nearing completion. Yeah, there's some ritzy places. Cool piece of history as well. In front of it is our brand new Apple store. It's a flagship store, so it's like a normal Apple store, except not at all. It's like 12 times the budget of your average Apple store. No expense there. Certainly some glassy and sleek design. Up and to the left, another iconic corporate logo you might recognize. You got a peacock at the base of a spire, NBC Tower. This is from 1989. A unique kind of architectural style here. Quite a bit of limestone siding, vertical lines, dark setbacks. 2 words, if you're thinking Art Deco, you have been fooled, like most people. This building looks like, sounds like, tastes like Art Deco, but was built in the 80s, not the 20s or the 30s. So it is not technically Art Deco, it's not allowed to be. It is technically Eco Deco. It is important to me that you know I make up a total of 0 things on this tour. Sometimes I wish I tower. My Chicago-based studio gang. Jeannie Gang is breaking a couple records here. She's a pretty big star-architect, kind of coming out of Chicago. She's well into her kind of career on her own, but hopefully decades more of work to come from her. She's breaking her own record. This is the new tallest building in the world, designed by a female-owned architecture firm. So she's probably likely to break that soon. Again, but definitely a whole new kind of skyline changer, just in terms of its placement. Not Vista anymore. St. Regis, excuse me, yes. 6 different shades of blue-green glass as it rises. We'll talk more about its structure. We'll get a little bit better views of the facade on our way back, some reflections and stuff. And in the meantime, there's business to be discussed with this not-so-picturesque fountain along the river. This is well, let's see how I do. The Nicholas J. Mellon Centennial Fountain was built back in 1989 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the creation of the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago. When I say it's slow, it doesn't make any sense either. It meant we had to dig it by digging a 28-mile-long canal that connects the south branch of our river to the Des Plaines, a tributary to the Mississippi and the Gulf of Mexico. And by digging it deeper than the river for those 28 miles, again, 1900, the flow of the river is reversed. If you're from St. Louis, sorry. They were not happy. We're no longer sending anybody our sludge today, I promise. The river is far cleaner than anybody could have anticipated for 2020, which I think, again, I know I can sound hyperbolic in this tour. No one could have ever predicted the river would be this clean in 2020. It just things in the last 6 years even have progressed far past what experts were predicting 10 years ago. It's not quite ready for a swim, don't do that. But kayaking really has kind of picked up, and the lakefront has really benefited. That we talked about, that 1909 plan called for an open, free, and clear lakefront, which had been established in the city. A pretty simple 1800 city ordinance said the Chicago lakefront must remain open, free, and clear for all citizens for all times. It's hard to find any urban place with this much public access to waterway anywhere. I think it's one of the things I'm most proud of. It's great in my very, very quiet winter. Now, we're going to turn around here one final time. The closer we get to Lake Michigan, the better skyline view we're about to get behind us. Don't worry, the view is coming to you as our captain gets us turned around. As always, feel free to grab a photo or just enjoy the view. Just make sure the person behind you can too. I've gotten in the habit of defending the beauty of our skyline on a cloudy day, which I know can sound like a conversation. No, we're wrong. A sunny day is also great. Hopefully we'll have some more sun this week. But there's something about all this blue glass. Certainly get that Gotham City. Navy Pier. It's not quite open to the public just yet. I think they have but beautiful views, very nautical views. Photos definitely make our way back towards the main branch. Please continue to enjoy the skyline. But there is a building here to our right on the lakefront. It's the only one here on our lakefront. And you have the whole Navy. It's a whole kind of debacle conversation. But Lake Point Tower is, I think, pretty iconic in its own right for its architecture. Two students of Mies van der Rohe designed this kind of three-pronged design. Some people call it the Flask building, some people call it the Fidget Spinner building. 1968, it was the tallest all-residential building in the world for almost a quarter century. So it really held its own. I think it still does. Probably more than any other name, though, this building is known cycling in cities as a way to get around, or doing the lakefront, for getting to work separately, and painted it at Chicago burgundy. Like I said, well overdue, this renovation for both structural and aesthetic purposes. I think they're going to be done by the end of the month. Back onto the main branch and back to Vista. Muscle memory, you don't get you. The St. Regis, back to the St. Regis. Flip it, stack it, and that's how you get the overall shape of the design. Getting those wheels turning as maybe you continue to explore. Start thinking about what you like, and maybe a little bit about why you like it, because I think that'll really kind of start to derive what your curiosity will bring you to. Jeannie Gang Design. Remember, she's the Chicago architect that led the St. Regis. Here, beyond this blue glass triangular skyscraper, you'll find White Waves on Aqua from 2009. Also a hotel and residence from Jeannie Gang. Primarily, it's said to maximize views. So essentially a 2-foot balcony meant you already had a great view from your unit. 13-foot meant you needed a little help getting a nice view. But they also reduce wind sway in the building. Their regular nature confuses the wind. So no tunes/dampers here. Birds are less likely to fly into glass because of the shading. It's worth the photo alone. This works out really well up close too, in my opinion. Next, we're docking. As we make our way back into our Michigan Avenue dock, we do have to ask on behalf of our Captain Ben will give us the all clear once we're tied in. Once we're all set, I'll be standing right at the top of the stairs here as you disembark. In case you have anything, any question, getting quite to comment, concern, anything you need, I'll be there for you, and then you're off to enjoy the rest of your day. Recommendations. I don't think they're going to surprise you. Public spaces, public spaces, public spaces. If it's not raining, if it's 70 degrees in April, the lakefront, the Riverwalk, our museum campus, parks and museums to our south here on Michigan Avenue. The observatory. If you head north on Michigan Avenue, you will find, it's our 5th tallest building. The St. Regis is completed. they have 360 Chicago. It's an observatory. They don't have glass boxes that you can step out onto, but if you want, you can hit a little bit extra, and you can step into a pane of glass, and they will then tilt you out head first over the ground about 1,100 feet below you instead. It's a relative substitute. It's okay if that's not in your personality. It depends on the day for me. Again, please do keep your seats until we get the all clear from our captain. Also, just on a personal note, thanks for helping me complete my first tour of the year. This is really great. Thank you. That's very nice of you. I promise I wasn't pushing. No, I really do appreciate it. 2020 was kind of a rough year to work in tourism in Chicago. We welcomed 54 million people to the city in 2019, and in 2020, less. So this is a lovely day for me. It's certainly a day of optimism for me. Before I leave you though, I do like to go to that Daniel Burnham guy. He's far more inspiring than I am. Something he said that he's known for is make no little plans, for they have no magic to stir men's blood. Pretty cool. But where I actually like to go with that is this. In Chicago or any other city, maybe find at least one moment to stop. Really anywhere. If you look up, find something beautiful. And in that same moment, look down and find something around you that's maybe a little bit less than beautiful. And just remember, because you're in a city, those two things are designed by somebody for you as part of a greater plan. And I guess more important than anything else as it does for me, I hope Chicago inspires you to go out and do great things. I'll be at the top of the stairs. Enjoy the rest of your day.
All right, folks, hang on to those seats for just one more moment. Keep that round of applause going for William, doing such a magnificent job on this beautiful, albeit a little rainy spring day. The crew's getting that ramp all set up, taken care for disembarkation. Take a moment to look around yourself, make sure you don't leave any personal belongings or trash on board the vessel. William, your tour guide's going to be the first one off the boat. He'll be standing at the top of those stairs, willing to accept any compliments, take any questions you may have for him, give you suggestions about somewhere to drink, something to do today. The ramp is now secured. Safe to follow William off the vessel. Watch your step on that ramp. Have a lovely day, and thank you so much for riding with Shoreline Sightseeing.
Oh, you want to speak about the gondola? So we just finished our cruise, and it was a really nice 1 hour. It didn't even feel like an hour. It took very short time. It was quick. Our director was really great. He gave us a lot of awesome information, and I learned a lot, definitely. But it wasn't like boring. It was really fun and engaging. Yeah, it was really nice. We really got to see the entire city, and it was just very beautiful. We saw a lot of really cool architecture and some really tall buildings and old buildings. So hopefully we can. This was kind of reminding me of like the classic like gondola in Venice experience. So obviously this is the first step to that. We are just doing the same thing except in a city setting. Hopefully one day we will go to Venice and be on the gondolas, and that would be pretty cool. But yeah, we had a lot of fun, and they loved everything. What did you think of the cruise?
I think even though it's like an hour, the entire time was engaging, and like he gave history about almost every single one of the buildings, so it was really cool.
Yeah, it was fun. I had a lot of fun, but I think now we are going to grab a bite to eat. So we will see you in our next adventure.